And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review.
Well, over the years, Winsome Games and Eagle Games have done a whole bunch of what they call the cube rail games, where you're basically laying out cubes along a map to make a train route, which you're going to buy stocks in, which are then going to score you some points based on how many stocks you have and how far the train makes it. The newest edition of it is Continental Divide. Let me show you how it plays. In Continental Divide, you are building shares and buying companies. So there's 8 game turns in the game, and each turn you are going to first start off by buying stock. Let's say I want to buy the black company. There is 10 shares of black, and I could decide if I want to start the company with 3 shares, with 5 shares, all the way up to 10 shares, as you can see from issued stock. So in this case, as you can see, I decided I was going to start it at 5. Then, because you start anywhere from $40 to $80, depending on the amount of players, I might start the stock value at 30. So I might buy a share of black for 30. That now would give me a black share. I could buy a second black share. I could do what I want. Then, once you do that, you now get Black Central Railroad cubes. You could use these cubes for the 8 turns of the game to build railroads. And so the next step is to build railroads. What you're going to do is you're going to take your cubes, you start them in one of the 3 cities, Chicago, Memphis, or New Orleans. Let's say we start in New Orleans, and then we start building. The cost of each thing is the first number. So in the case of that first base, it costs 8, it'll pay a dividend of 2. The next one costs 4, pay a dividend of 1. And then Houston costs 4, but it will pay a dividend of 8. So let's say I built that with my $30. Or I might have spent more. Because I have $30, I might also build all the way out to San Antonio. So I might build this, this, and this. So now you can see that my railroad income, which was 0, is going to move up. So instead of 0, now I have 3, 4, 12, 13, 14. I have 20 of income. So now my railroad income would move to 20. In that case, what you do is we then will pay dividends each round. After each person has bought shares and laid out their train, then you pay dividends. So based on the amount of shares in total, in this case there's 5 shares of black. 4 of the shares are in the bank, 1 is for me. If it was an income of 20, that means each share would get $4 of the $20 because it would be split. 16 of it would go into the company. The rest of it would go to me. So I would get $4 back. My $30 investment netted me $4 at this point. Later on it will net more, where then I could buy another share if I want to. So if you notice, not all of your cubes here are available. What you have to do is you have to build to these red lines. If you don't make it to the red line, let's say you wanted to go to Dallas, so you decided to build up to Dallas. If you build up to Dallas, then you don't have enough cubes to cross the red line. You will never get these because these second set of cubes, the only way you get them is if you actually cross the red line. Once you cross the red line, you get your second set. Once you cross the second red line, you get your third set to come all the way out here to the really high-paying cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, etc. There's 8 turns to do that, so you have time. As more shares get bought from each of the players, more money will go into the companies, so you'll be able to do more. Obviously, depending if you issue a stock at 3 or at 10, it will determine how much money is being paid to the company versus how much to the players, so it determines how quickly the players could buy more shares. You will need a lot of money because as you cross mountains, as you can see, this mountain costs 56 to cross and gives you a dividend of 0. So you need to stock up money to cross the mountains and make it all the way to California. Well, I didn't really like this one too much. I felt that it was kind of mundane compared to some of the others, compared to Steel Driver or Chicago Express. This one was a little bland. There wasn't a lot going on, and it felt that you kind of had to do a straight route. You couldn't really hitch off and grab cities, because if you did, the train wasn't going to make it all the way over to the west coast, which doesn't leave a lot of options and kind of makes the train building part of it a little boring. And I wish it was going to be better, because I really like this kind of game, but this one kind of fell flat for me due to that, mostly because if only 2 of the trains are going to make it to the other side to to the west coast, those trains are obviously the most powerful. Every other train, they're picking up money along the way, but they're not making it anywhere, and they're not crossing that border and crossing that second border. And if you don't cross those borders with the cubes you have, you're never going to make it to the end. And I felt that kind of dragged the game down and didn't make it interesting, especially when people's trains just kind of stalled out halfway and they were stuck with these stocks that were going to be worthless compared to the bigger trains. And to me, that's not fun, because you're not competing equally. It's like, oh, well, I made one mistake by putting 1 cube in 1 extra city, and now I'm stuck and not making it anywhere. And that, that made it kind of an uninteresting game. This was not one of my favorite of this line, and it's one that I wouldn't recommend. And I'm going to give it an awesomeness rating of 4.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.